Hi, thank you for being interested in volunteering for Refcode as an online volunteer. My name is Brenton Strine. I'm sure you all know me, and I'm sure you all know the program that we've created. In order to volunteer online, you really need to know a good bit about how things work already. So I hope that you have taken advantage of the resources that I've given you to learn about that if you're somebody who's new, to learn about the sort of classes that we've done, the vision and the mission that we have, how things normally go. And if you haven't gotten that, ask me for it, and I'll send you some more videos probably, or documents of me talking about this, because a lot of these online opportunities are things that are grown out of what we've done in the past. And the more you know about how Refcode operates, the more it's going to make sense what you need to do in the online opportunities. So I'm really excited about these online opportunities. We haven't made use of online-only volunteers very much in the past. We have a little bit, but it's time, of course, in 2021 and beyond to kick online-only volunteering opportunities into high gear. And I've really thought hard about this to make sure that the opportunities that are here are really high impact and meaningful and contribute a lot. And I'm really excited about sharing those opportunities with you. A lot of these opportunities grew out of what I've reflected on happening in the classroom, what you'll hear me call the discernment class sometimes, or just class, coding class, the Refcode class. Those classes were initially taught sort of traditionally, the way that a regular, software training, software or programming training class might be taught. I've done a bunch of workshops in the past. I taught a lot in the past, and so my first attempt at teaching Refcode was pretty similar to that. And I had heard somewhere that you should expect something like a 50% attrition rate with the refugee population specifically. And that was pretty accurate. We had a lot of people drop out for various reasons. And so I started putting a lot of energy into thinking about why people dropped out and what we could do to help that. Obviously, we can't help it if they drop out because their job hours change and they can't quit their job to take a class. But there were a lot of people that were dropping out for reasons that I thought we could control. And people advised me not to worry about this, but I did not take that advice. And so we started adding things because I was noticing that what contributed the most to student success was engagement. And that engagement was not the same as motivation. Obviously, motivation matters a lot, but I was finding that there were students who were highly motivated when they were in class. They did a lot. They would even come an hour early to class and meet with somebody and work on their homework. They were super motivated, but they weren't engaging during the week. There was all this homework about, posting in Slack, and they weren't posting in Slack. They weren't asking questions. They weren't doing the little check-in posts. They were part of the homework assignments, and they weren't doing their homework. And what I found was that if I created events and put in place connections that forced them to be engaged, that they would succeed. We went from more than 50% of our students dropping out to having an initial cohort of 20 students and 18 graduating, and the 2 that dropped out were totally out of our control because they had a job situation that was that was out of our control. So a lot of these volunteering opportunities that we added to the classroom were just to meet that need of helping to engage. And the first and most obvious one was that I was connecting with every single student during Slack. I was acting as a student success manager. And so if there was a cohort of 20 students, I would make sure to be aware of what every single student was going through and had done. If they were late to class, if they showed up to class, if they missed class, I was staying on top of that. And then I was following up with them. The day after class, I'd follow up and kind of ask how they were doing, see what they were planning on working on, asking if they had any blockers, and just kind of giving them a little prompt, a little nudge. And a lot of times that meant, following up again and saying, hey, I didn't see anything posted. You didn't post anything. What's going on? And if they didn't respond, then like graduating to connecting through their phone, sending them a text. And if they didn't respond to that, graduating to a phone call, kind of like escalating it, saying, hey, I sent you a message on Slack. I noticed that you haven't responded on Slack. Are you connected? Do you need some help? Finding gentle ways that feels friendly and builds connection and rapport to nudge them and stay on them and force them to continue thinking about things, and directing them to resources. So directing them if they need help. Sometimes I would try and help, but a lot of times I would direct them to ask on Slack, to make an appointment with somebody to do an online tutoring session, to join one of the office hours that was available, things like that. So it was mostly the student success manager role that I was playing out, without realizing that was a real role, was mostly just something that was a nudging role, just checking in, making sure you're aware of what they're doing and that they're not falling behind, and nudging them and reminding them that you need to be doing this. I noticed that you're not doing this. I noticed that you're blocked, all of that. And so the student success manager role is probably the most important online only role, and we need every single student to have a student success manager. I was doing 20 at a time. That's probably too much, because I was like copying and pasting every single, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, to every single student. It was a lot. But you can kind of batch it. But then you get into these conversations and you start developing relationships and connections, and it's beautiful and wonderful, and it takes a lot of time. So, maybe we'll have people not do 20 at once if you're a student success manager. So that's the first and I think most important role. Another really important role is the online tutors and the online office hours tutors. These are similar. The difference is that the office hour tutor schedules a time that they're just going to be available, and they promote that time on Slack. They say, hey, it's going to be at this time. Everybody join me, put it in your calendars. And then when that time comes around, they post in Slack again. They put the link in. They say, please join me. I'm all alone. Don't let me be lonely. They encourage people to join, and then they help. And so sometimes there's several people that will log in, and I love that when that happens, because you're facilitating conversations, you're having that group dynamic, you're building collaboration, you're building all of that. And sometimes nobody shows up, and you spend your entire office hours with Zoom open and nobody logged in, and you're just doing some other work. So you have to be ready for that. Now, the sort of like similar to that is the online tutor. And this is where, instead of scheduling out just an hour that you're available, you make appointments with students to connect at different on specific tasks or for a specific need. And this could be something that you start doing recurringly with a student, or it could just be as needed. And a really important part of this is that people know that you are an office hours tutor, so you need to post regularly saying, hey, I'm an office hours tutor, schedule time with me. And then secondly, that if people do, oh, my cat is here. Hi, Pepper, come here. Hi, Pepper. Say hello to all of the Refcode volunteers. She's like, I don't know about this. It's really important to, if people do ask for help on Slack, to jump in and say, hey, I'm available to help you. Do you want to schedule an appointment? Or even just help them right away. So that's the online tutor and office hours tutor. Really, really key, because the student success managers are going to depend on you. And things might start out slow, but as things get rolling, student success managers are going to be sending people your way. And so if you're not there to help, then everything kind of breaks down. So some other really important roles are that are more online and less student engaging are around the curriculum. So we have a lot of curricula that we have built. I've made a lot of the curricula myself. We have kind of like a Refcode class curriculum. We've got curricula that we've put together for the lab. And one of the things we've found is that the lab needs more structure. It needs more sort of like exercises and tasks and projects and probably even like lessons, and it needs the things that you're learning to be organized into like a path that you follow and graduate through. And so we just need help on that. I need help on that. I've kind of asked generally volunteers, like just kind of send it out to everybody and get a little bit of help. But if that's something that sounds interesting to you, that's something that I could really use somebody who's committed to creating some curricula, various types of curricula. And a big part of that too is the engineering skills matrix as well. So it's not all coding stuff. Some of it is soft skills. So I really need help with that. And on that note, I need people to actually teach the curricula that we've built, because I'm thinking we're going to move a lot towards more of like an upside down classroom model, where you have a lot of resources that are available that students can go through. That's like the homework. And then when they come into the class, you don't want to spend more time just having them listen to somebody talk, or doing something where they could be taking advantage of the group that's there and collaborating and getting one-on-one help and instruction. So the upside down classroom, instead of having class be lecture and then they go off and do homework and they go off and do projects, it's the opposite, where lectures are recorded and as part of the homework, students watch the video lecture, or it could just be reading something or going through an assignment of some kind. But for us, I really think that it makes sense for us to create video lectures of our curriculum, going through our curriculum. And we've got a lot of it built already, and there's a lot that needs to be built. And so as a teacher, what you will be doing is making these videos and having them be available for students to go through during the week, so that they can come into the class or the lab after they've done that and take advantage of being together in person. And there's a lot there. I think that a teacher probably will also be interested in creating the curriculum that they're teaching, the lesson that they're teaching. But you can also just teach a lesson that already exists, because we've got those too, and I just don't have time to record them all. So get in touch with me if you're interested in teaching a lesson, or we can kind of make it as broad or narrow as you want. It doesn't have to be, they don't all have to look the same. It doesn't always have to be like a lecture with a PowerPoint slide. You can make it really engaging and different and creative. Any sort of video that teaches something. It could even just be like fake pair programming, where you're coding something and they're watching, or you could just tell a life experience about job seeking or professional skills or group dynamics on a team where communication broke down, or where there was, how to avoid collaboration problems, how to solve, a ticket that wasn't written clearly, causing a lot of confusion. There's a lot that can be put into these little mini lessons. And they don't have to be long either. They can be long or short. So that's kind of like the big categories of online. And then of course the last is something that everybody should be doing all the time anyway, because it's so key, is just Slack on call, or just manning Slack. I guess that's a sexist term. You shouldn't say manning it, you should say having a person on deck, or I don't know what the phrase is, but you want to have people not think that Slack is dead. If somebody does finally get past all of the blocks that they have about posting on Slack, to actually ask for help on Slack, and then nobody responds, that kills their engagement. That's the worst possible thing that could happen. And so, I would do things like, I would respond, and I would always respond no matter what people posted. I would respond with a emoji, I'd respond with chat, and it was always me responding. And so people started posting in the general channel, "Hello, Mr. Brenton, can you please help me with this?" And I was like, no, you're not getting this. This is supposed to be a community. So I had to create fake accounts so that that engagement, that immediate quick engagement still happened, but they didn't know that it was me. So there's actually, you may still see some of these fake sock puppet accounts of mine show up on Slack every once in a while, just to engage and make not be from me. But what would be even better is if it's not me that's doing this, if it's you that's doing this. So it could just be an emoji reaction. That's like the bare minimum. If you can at least react with an emoji reaction, if you don't have time, you just got your phone, you see the little pop-up, you react, and then you're done. You've at least done something to make the space feel alive and make the person feel like they're getting a response. The next best thing is to engage a little bit. You don't have to know the answer. You don't have to be able to help with the question. You just need to do a little bit of the pre-work, because a lot of times the initial question is very vague, very poorly worded, very sparse on details. And so you can just start asking some probing questions. It doesn't work. What doesn't work? Why doesn't it work? What have you tried? Some of those basic troubleshooting questions, so that all that information can be in Slack, so that when somebody who does know the answer comes along, they can quickly provide the help, and the person is unblocked sooner. The other thing you can do, besides just asking questions, is offer helpful advice in terms of like pointing people in the right direction. Say, oh, that sounds really challenging. Empathy, just showing some empathy at the beginning is great. Maybe you can try connecting with an online tutor, or maybe you can go to the upcoming office hours that's happening, something like that. And if we can get all of these different online roles working really like efficiently and effectively, and like everybody's on top of it, what that's going to do is that's going to mimic the environment that we had that was so successful in the classroom. Because the classrooms had all of these things. They had me as the student success manager, they had me as the teacher and curriculum creator. They had every student was matched with a tutor that they would meet with once a week. Every student was in a study group. I haven't figured out how to do study group online stuff, but if you're interested in that, if leading a study group online, like, yeah, let's do it. I'm not sure it's going to work out quite as well because, well, it might work. It might work if everybody just kind of zooms together. But in the classes, people would meet. A group of students would meet, and there would be one study group lead to kind of like facilitate that engagement. Again, just a little nudge to get them to come together and do the work. And then if we have the Slack people available, that was something that was really key in the class. Is all these volunteers were always available to answer on Slack. Oh, and the last thing was the lab. We had an in-person lab that people could go to just to get help. And that's what we kind of like shifted away from a classroom where the lab is what exists now. So, we kind of have all the components of the classroom except the actual classroom right now. And that's kind of awesome because it means that different people are at different levels. Everybody's getting sort of ad hoc, just-in-time instruction that's more specific to where they are. And I've noticed that students are learning faster using this. A couple weeks into the class, I noticed like students made a certain amount of progression. That same number of weeks of students participating in the lab, they progressed a lot farther. And that's because they've gotten a lot more help that is just in time or just exactly where they need it, sort of like ad hoc. It's it's postmodern as opposed to modern. It's kind of like all over the place in terms of organization. It doesn't have like the structure and the hierarchy and the rigid, like everybody starts here and moves along the conveyor belt together. But the benefit of that chaos is that everybody gets exactly what they need at the right time. Everybody has the opportunity to grow in a personal way, and there's more freedom for the helpers helping the participants to have autonomy and to give really meaningful help specifically. And there's less time spent where it's just the teacher blathering on and not everybody's connecting with it, or not everybody's even understanding or listening. So this sort of like everybody's at a different place. Also, the great thing about that is it promotes community, because you have somebody who's working on, we'll say weeks, because that's what we use in the classroom, but say you're working on week 4 and then there's another person working on week 2. Well, hey, if you're at week 4, you can help somebody on week 2. And so when you come in the lab and everybody's kind of like spread out at all different places, that allows the participants themselves to help each other because they're all at different places and they can help each other. Whereas if you are in a sort of like conveyor belt modern classroom teaching paradigm, everybody's on the conveyor belt at the same time and everybody's learned the thing together, and so it's harder for them to help each other, and it's harder for them to have a sense of this is a community, because it's more of you are the teacher, you are the authority, you are giving me the instruction. There are maybe some TAs, they are the authorities, they are giving me the instruction. But with this format, this lab format, where everybody's all over the place, you are getting help from anybody, you are giving help to anybody, and it's great. It's really great. I studied philosophy in college, and I love that. I used to hate the concept of postmodernity because I thought it was proscriptive of like, this is how you should live, this is how you should understand truth and meaning. But what I've come to find is that postmodernity is just a description of a reality of how certain people operate and how certain systems operate. And I find that operating under a more postmodern classroom paradigm has a ton of benefits, and I really love it. That's not to say that like hierarchy and structure isn't important, but being okay with some of that postmodern chaos can really do a lot. So if you listen to this video and you saw or heard something that stood out to you, or multiple things that stood out to you as ways that you want to engage, connect with me and we'll get you set up. I'm looking forward to it.